Hey everyone. So, as the title suggests, today I'm gonna talk about a whimsical winter Tiana again, because ever since I've done my review on her, things have changed a little bit, and especially my perception of whimsical winter Tiana changed for the better, I should say. One of the reasons is that we got news about the next Clash of Worlds. That's the wrong tab. And we also got news. I can't find it though. But we know for certain that the next, or what the next boss is going to, what the next Clash boss is going to be, and it's Beast Fairy, and that is weak to 2 of the 5 elements she uses. I know it's fire, and I don't remember the other 2, but I believe one of them is lightning. So Tiana may see another. Well, she may get a second wind, let's call it that way. Because when I did my review initially, I kind of doubted myself about pulling on her, especially in terms of viability. But now that I've had enough time to play around with her, I have to kind of retract my statement about her usability. By now, I think that she is a very nice tech unit to have. More in the sense of that if you can afford to bring her, she's going to do outstanding things and make your life in a trial or ranking environment a lot easier. So, but before we get to that point, some may ask us or may wonder, what is FOMO? FOMO is an abbreviation. It stands for fear of missing out, meaning you don't pull for Tiana, and then all of a sudden, for the next 2-3 months, you're gonna see Sinsar or me use Tiana constantly in our Clash of Worlds videos, and you're gonna hate me for saying, oh, don't pull on Tiana. You're gonna say, I hate that you made me not pull on Tiana to Sinsar as well, like people did with Carton. So I think we all learned our lesson from Carton. And Sinsar too, for that matter, he also admitted to it. We judged unfairly, probably, of Carton, because he's seen a lot of views. But truth be told, I still think Carton's only viability lies in his initial burst. He falls flat in terms of damage once you reach higher morale, because his main nuke, Feral Frenzy, doesn't scale off morale as well as it does, for example, with Tiana, Skye, or Lara Croft. But he's still clinging on to that third/fourth spot in terms of DPS, so Carton still has some value. And I do regret myself not going for EX plus 3 Carton. Not going for EX plus 3 Carton will cost me rank 1ing this Clash of Worlds, for example. So I'm in the same boat as you guys. I do regret not going for EX plus 3 Carton, and I fell victim to the good old FOMO, fear of missing out. I missed out, and I regret it. Now, did I get caught off guard by FOMO again on Tiana? No. I made a conscious decision to pull for her regardless, and I think it was worth it. Anyway, so what does Tiana do for you guys? On the one hand, she does a lot of damage, as you've seen. For example, in my farming guide, turn 3 farming guide, in that matter, she is the top DPS to have. Granted, mine is EX plus 3, but she does very, very strong damage. And the other thing about Tiana is her stacking abilities. She's super, super flexible. 2 out of the 5 elements that she covers are Chaos Wave Awakened. Coincidentally, the fire one is Chaos Wave Awakened, which does chains very, very well with Louise, and for sure we are going to bring Louise in the next Clash of Worlds because it is weak to fire, and if there is always a fire element attached, you sure bet Louise is going to be on the team because she enhances fire damage greatly, and Lara being also very, very good for fire, 60% amp, don't forget about that. Well, you're gonna have that gun in parallel, but the other thing is, Tiana is also probably going to be on the team, depending on what kind of unit we get next month. That is most likely going to be a DPS unit again, and thus may or may not make Tiana obsolete. We don't know. and that is the issue. So Tiana, when she stacks her stuff up to full, it is a 16, it's 37 and another, so it's around 670x something damage, which is very strong in its own right. You can pentacast this, and it's going to deal a lot of damage. I mean, the current rank 1 strat revolves around using Unstable Wind, which is Bolting Strike, same thing, same values, nothing changes, and Tiana still tops out DPS charts on that. So in terms of damage, Tiana, whether you use her as a chainer or as an LB finisher, she does very well. While charts or DPS sheets, they cannot, the scope of a usual damage sheet cannot encompass her whole kit, depending on certain scenarios, right? We'd have to make a scenario chart, and these are even harder to read, especially for those who don't know how to read them. It's just a huge peter. So rest assured that whether you use Tiana as an LB damage dealer or LB finisher or a chainer, elemental chainer, she will do good damage. But the damage is pretty much secondary with Tiana. The things that she does are kind of outstanding. Oops, that's the wrong ability. Like, fantastic formula. It's a total perfect dispel, meaning buffs and only buffs are removed from enemies. The game doesn't state as such, but it is what it does. I've tested it multiple times, and it also perfect dispels your own team, meaning it removes all the negative things. It says some enfeeblements, but it's all enfeeblements. Stop Charm and Berserk, which is really cool. The only thing it doesn't really get rid of is Zombie, but that's fine. We got Kresnik for that. And the other things that are super cool, or the other thing that is super cool, is Iridescent Invention. This ability on its own, even though it's just a single ally, can make or break a fight. Like, it's a 5-element absorption effect for 1 turn, granted, but just imagine a fight, like take Behemoth Trial for example. You have the combined elements, or Scorn of Ashura for example. She does, on the transition phase, she does fire attacks. Just use this on your cover tank, and what makes this transition from phase 1 to phase 2 so dangerous is the elemental attacks. You can just completely ignore it. Your tank will heal up to full based on this ability. And this is the main gimmick of Tiana, that she does a lot of things nobody else does, especially for this amount of different elements. The other thing in her base form is the Rainbow Colored Remedy. It's a 150 element boost for 5. Just let this sink in for a while. It's 5 turns of elemental boost to 5 elements. This in itself is crazy, and whenever you have a boss that deals water, wind, earth, lightning or fire damage, yeah, Tiana is probably going to see use, even if it's just for supporting capabilities. That's just how good this ability is, and it's a Grandis, sure. It's 1 use only, sure, but it's 5 turns. And truth be told, most trials these days, they are done by turn 5. Now, I know we are getting a few 12 races trials that will probably take a little bit longer than 5 turns, but by that point, you kind of stabilized anyway, probably, so it won't be an issue. And especially, this ability is crazy enough that it also boosts the resistances by 75% permanently, until KO'd, that is. So even if it takes longer than 5 turns, you still have half of it left, and permanently left at that. Revitalizing Brew is kind of whatever, right? But the Throwing Imperil, it's kind of neat, especially for herself, but Throwing Imperil, now, we don't have that particular good throwing weapons, neither for physical DPS nor for magic DPS, especially not for magic DPS, one should say. But it's nice to have whenever we actually get a very good throwing weapon. And it also opens up just more opportunities and more options to your unit gearing. Say you can't fit in Louise. Well, you can build your Lara, I think, or any other DPS that can wear throwing weapons for throwing, because you have got that 30% throwing imperil. The difference between gun imperil and throwing imperil is only 5 percentage points, so that's fine. in terms of DPS loss, right? So what does that mean for you guys? If you haven't pulled for Tiana yet and are still on the fence whether you should or should not pull, just take a step back and ask yourself, what do I want? What is my end game for this game? Is it ranking highly in Clash of Wilds? Well, I would actually say Tiana isn't the worst of choices. I would actually even say you probably should get her. Now, when it comes to Trials or Dark Visions, I could make a point where she's really good for those, but truth be told, she probably won't see much use, because most of the time in Dark Visions, or Vision World for that matter, you will be using a provoker, a single provoker anyway, or OTK on turn 1 right away. And that provoker usually gears for high resistances regardless, because it's most of the time Mastermind Xorn, and who cares whether Xorn does 2 million damage or 2,000,001 damage. The difference is not noticeable at all. And thus it diminishes Tiana's use in these scenarios. I personally will use Tiana for some Dark Visions probably next week. Is it next week already? Yeah, I think it is. But it's just for showcasing, just because I have the unit. She's certainly not needed for Dark Visions, but she is kind of nice to have. So what's the takeaway of this video? 1, don't fall for FOMO, fear of missing out. 2, if you do want to rank highly in Clash of Wilds, not only this one, but potentially, and I'm saying this again, potentially, because we don't know what the boss actually does until it arrives, you may want to pull Tiana. Even if it's just EX plus 2, I think EX plus 2 is enough, especially when she's just chaining. Sure, she'll lose a little bit of damage by missing out 500 static magic and a little bit of base magic, but at the end of the day, if you're not going for rank 1, what does EX plus 3 matter to you? That is my personal opinion, obviously, on that difference between EX plus 2 and EX plus 3, depending on what you're going for. But if you're going for top scores, I don't think you're watching this video because you already pulled for Tiana. So yeah, if you're not ranking for top 10 or top 50 even, EX plus 2 Tiana is fine. I think if people don't want to fall into FOMO, not miss out on her and regret their choices later on, EX plus 2 Tiana is fine. If you do have the Lapis to spend on, go for EX plus 3. It definitely is worth it to some degree. But what I also want to mention is, don't fall for the first day banner with the free Final Fantasy VII units. While Sephiroth certainly is still a great unit, the pity price of 65k is a little bit too steep for a 4-month-old unit. Alright, I hope I was able to somewhat retract my statement from Friday, where I said that Tiana won't see much use. And I hope that you guys now have a more clearer picture of what Tiana's value in the game is and what not, such that you can make your final decision whether you want to pull for her. Alright, thank you all for watching. We'll see each other tomorrow for Joichu, or whatever the name of the quote-unquote trial is. We'll see. Anyway, have a great rest of the day and see you tomorrow. Bye bye.